My experience with Riley has been with two of my children. The first experience was a minor procedure, and I had an 8-month-old that was going under anesthesia, and Riley was very supportive, very educated, and finished the procedure with professionalism and accurately.
My diagnosis of ALL, or acute lymphoblastic leukemia, was actually found by accident. And the doctor that was doing the checkup of my little brother was like, "Ma'am, your son looks awfully pale. I think you should take him to Riley to get tested." But from that day, October 21st, that was the start of a 3+ year bout with cancer.
When I was 16, I was in the marching band practice, and one night I had this pain in my chest, and I wasn't quite sure what it was. I asked my parents to take me to urgent care. They did an x-ray, and they couldn't quite see what it was, but they could see sort of something in my chest. And so they sent me to a hospital in my hometown. They did a CT scan, and they saw that there was potentially a cancerous mass. So Riley got me in as soon as they could. I ended up having a biopsy surgery because they could see the urgency of my issue and wanted to get me in and out. When they did the biopsy, it took like maybe half a week, and it was cancerous. So they diagnosed me with Hodgkin's lymphoma. 1 week after that, they had me in another surgery to get a bone marrow biopsy and my port put in so I could get treated. And then the week after that, I started on chemotherapy.
The bigger experience with Riley was our second child. We had experienced secondary infertility, so we went through a lot of stuff to get this second child. When he was born, they did a minor procedure, and then he had excessive bleeding, and something went wrong, and they couldn't seem to determine what the cause was, and the bleeding just wouldn't stop.
Diagnosed at 3 years old, a lot of shots, a lot of pills, and I also had a central line installed. I still have the scar to this day. There were frequent trips to Riley, many weeks stays at the hospital. But some of the favorite things that I did while I was there, the glass elevators were one of my favorite things to do. I would just go up and down those things. I can go up and down them all day long. There was always a fountain that I would always visit, and I would throw pennies in the fountain like a wishing well. Once I was released from the hospital, the first go around, I remember going back home, and my grandfather actually purchased a red wagon similar to the one that I was given rides in at the hospital.
So I did chemotherapy for about 3 months, and then they did more scans, and then I was officially in remission.
They referred us to Riley and got that handled, and then he underwent some testing for what's called hemophilia. So Riley was able to do invasive tests and blood draws and medical evaluations and exams to come to the realization that he did not have hemophilia, that most likely it was because he was a premature baby. It was about a year process going into Riley and working with doctors.
It was a long, long road. What I value about Riley was very family friendly, kind of helped my parents through the difficult time, helped me kind of forget that I was a patient, and actually, a young kid. When I was third grade, around 8 years old, I was done.
They always made sure to take the time to explain to me what was going on. There was just so much love and support at Riley. And they actually call the floor I was on, they call it the happy floor, because everyone on that floor, despite the horror they have going on, is just always very kind, and we find joy in the small things. They knew my case best, and they want to keep with it.